All right, everybody, I'd like to thank you for joining us here today. My name is Scott. I am one of the support engineers here with Implementation Specialists. Today we are going to be covering what to do when one of your batches sticks when you're trying to post. This is a very common occurrence, something that I've done quite a bit here. It's actually a fairly simple process, and we'll show that both ways to you here today. And there are, like I said, there are two ways. Our two ways that are able to do it is through batch recovery or through SQL scripting. And the note here, I'll explain this here. It says the last two agenda points involve SQL scripting. It's just that last one there, obviously. If you do not have access to SQL or do not feel comfortable editing and running SQL scripts, please contact us and we'll be happy to help you. Originally, I had this to cover, there's two types of batches that this covers, is non-payroll batches and payroll batches. The non-payroll batches is what I see most often, but the payroll batch recovery is a completely different process, and there are some extra steps involved and some verification via SQL scripting, because if you are not careful, you can accidentally delete out history, like especially if you use direct deposit. And so trying to fit everything within an hour covering both those points was getting difficult. So what I did is I'm going to break these out. I'll do the payroll batches in a future webinar. I want to make sure that we do give all the proper time and attention to that it needs to make sure that if you do get a stuck payroll batch, it's a fairly it's mostly SQL scripting, but it is a fairly simple process, but you need to make sure you get every step covered just in case the worst does happen. So today we are just going to be covering non-payroll batches, which include GL, sales, receivables, and the like. All right. There are just a couple notes here I wanted to get started. Is if you do have a batch that gets stuck during the posting stage, we do recommend that you check your GL accounts that you're posting to see if any of the transactions posted. Sometimes if you have a batch of several hundred transactions, if it errors out on number 20, the first 19 might still post to your GL. So if we recover that batch, we might double post those. It is possible to remove those since you don't double post. You just go and edit the batch once it gets unstuck, or for those first 19, you can do reversing transactions and back out of them and then just repost all 100 again from that large batch to make sure that you do have the proper audit trail codes and everything like that to make sure you can account for everything if you really have an audit. And again, if you don't know how to do that back out, just let us know. We'll be happy to show you that process. All right, our first step here is batch recovery. Like I said, SQL scripts are the most common way to do it. And if batch recovery fails, SQL scripting is the only way that we can do it. But always check here first. It is a routine included within Core GP, and there's a path to it, Dynamics GP Tools Routine Batch Recovery. And with each release of GP, the batch recovery gets more robust, more powerful, and it's done a better job with each version here. And if you are able to recover your batch through batch recovery, one of two things will happen. It will either appear in the appropriate batch edit window for the module it originated from. So if it was a sales batch, it'll appear back in your sales batches window. Or it will attempt to continue where the posting failed. Usually when it hits the posting phase, it might try it again from that failed transaction moving forward, or if something happened right at the end and the reports didn't print, it might just prompt you to print your reports. This way is fairly safe. Like I said, if it picks up right where it left off, in a lot of cases, like I said, if it posted those first 19 batches, batch recovery, not in every case, unfortunately, but in a lot of the cases, it will pick up on the 20th and move forward. So only the proper transactions get posted. All right, so once you go to that path, if your batch is present here, and there's currently nothing in here, this is just a screenshot of the window I wanted to grab. You select your batch if it's present and click on Continue. In this field right here where it says Batch ID, what we'll do is we'll have a little checkbox. You just put the check in there and click on Continue. It is recommended that if it goes back, you print a edit batch list report after using batch recovery, as this can give you an idea as to why the batch got stuck. If you can get back to your batch windows, you can easily print that report by clicking on the printer icon on the batch edit windows for the appropriate module. All right. And like I said, that is fairly simple. So what I'm going to do here quick is I'm just going to quickly pause just to see if anybody has any questions on the batch recovery. If you do, feel free to type them into the questions window on your webinar tool, and I will be happy to answer them for you. I will also go through the SQL scripting, and then when that's done, I'll pause, and then I will show a demonstration of both the SQL scripts and the tool. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions at this time, so we're going to go ahead and get moving forward here with the SQL scripting. Generally, if you try to post, again, non-payroll batch in GP, and if it shows one of the following statuses when you go to try and post it, this is usually a sign that it is stuck. And this is the status will be as posting, receiving, busy, marked, locked, or edited. And I'll show you those on the windows here in the demonstration. And these are easy to fix via SQL. Like I said, we'll go ahead and run through the scripts, and then I'll show you a demonstration. Again, for most non-payroll originating batches, occasionally there's something that gets stuck and requires a little more work. But 9 times out of 10, I have seen these scripts clear right up, and our customers able to move forward with the posting. What you want to do is have all users that were working on that particular batch close out of the work. So that batch edit window and the transaction windows for those modules, have them just close out of that. And then what you want to do is log into SQL Management Studio, and you want to run this following SQL script. And I will put this out as a blog article on our website later, and I'll make sure that each of these SQL scripts are selectable, so you can just go ahead and copy and paste them, so you're not having to type from a webinar pause screen. And the script you want to do is select the SY800 table from the Dynamics database. And that is just the batch lock file, so make sure that there aren't multiple people posting or going into a batch at the same time, which can cause confusion. What you want to do is look, apologies, let me head back here. This should be batch number, B-A-C-H-N-U-M-B. I do apologize about that typo. What you want to do is look in the batch num column and see if you can find the batch ID in question. So we're in GP where you put in the batch ID. That is going to be the batch num on all these tables that we'll be taking a look at today. And then there will be a user ID listed in that same row, and verify that they're out of the batch. Sometimes people, when they get stuck, they leave the batch window open, which will cause this lock to remain. If they're not out, have them close out of that and rerun the script in step 2, that's select script. If they are backed out and still showing them in there, what we need to do is delete that row, because while there's this entry on that table, it locks that. That's how you get that locked status, is that there's this entry on this SY800 table on Dynamics. So what you want to do is delete from Dynamics.SY100 where batch num equals XX, and just replace those X's with the batch ID that is stuck. But you want to make sure you leave those single quote marks. It is a text field, so you want to make, so if you don't have those quote marks, SQL has some issues recognizing it. So by putting single quotes around, it will make sure that it reads it as a text field. As you can see here, I pulled this directly from Management Studio here just to show the coloring, and I did this with all the SQL scripts. So your keywords here are in blue, and then like your terms and fields specific to a database are in black. And anything within those single quotes is going to appear as red. Double quotes will not do this. Again, it's the single quotes. Once you have that SY800 table cleared, we need to check the company table, SY500. This is the batch header file, and this will give us some idea with the instruction here. Now, the two key columns that we need to pay attention to are marked to post and batch status. So a lot of the scripts, if you go online search, will just show select star from. I like to actually put those two first and then the asterisk, which is a select all. Because those are the ones that we primarily need to check to see what the value is before we run them. So when you run the script, again, replacing those X's with your batch ID, will come through. In most cases, mark to post and batch status should both be 0. If there were error messages, batch status might have a different value, or if you've printed your checks, if this is a purchasing batch, it may have printed checks. So the batch status on that would not be 0. Usually once it kind of prints, it doesn't really get stuck. So what we need to do is set them to 0 here. And this is an update, set mark to post and batch status to 0 where batch num equals. And then again, replace that with that. And then you hop back into GP and try and post the batch again. This works most of the time. Those two, that one delete and that one update script, in most cases, do clear everything up and get everything moving. If it fails, there might be a couple of other entries that have put a lock on there, but usually they won't. Usually they clear out a lot easier than that Dynamics SY800 table here. So at this point, we would need to have everybody out of GP. And just not closing the terminal server and RDP connection, like they would actually have to close the GP program itself. And then there's 5 scripts we want to run: the Dynamics activity, 800, 801, and then tempdb, dexlock, and dex session. These are all tables that can put locks on batches and transactions. And with everybody out, all 5 of these should be blank. We should return no results. Usually when the first scripts don't run, even with everybody out, one of these tables or multiple of them will return results. So what we need to do is basically blank these out. Let's just do a delete statement here. And that'll clear all those entries out. Again, these are all just temporary tables. Well, not temporary tables, but the 800 and the 801 should only be locked when a batch is being edited. Activity should only have people, should only show entries and people logged in. And then tempdb again are the temporary ones that kind of tie to the 800 tables. And I had one the other day where there was something in dex session that got locked. So all the other 4 were cleared out. It was dex session that put a lock on something. So we had to clear that out, and then it flowed through as appropriate. Then you run those that update statement, and then you can have everyone log back into GP. Now, as I noted earlier, if you've printed checks or your batch status is something other than 0, something may have happened, like it may have gotten to a certain point in the process before it failed. It is possible to put the status back to where it should be after, like in this case, I use check printing as the example, where it updates the tables, where it posts, prints checks, even prints the reports here. But there are several dozen, there's a couple, not several dozen, there's a couple, I'd say 2.5 dozen possible batch status values that can affect what your values would be here. So if you already printed your checks, if you set it back to 0, you have to rerun everything, including the printing of the checks, which can cause duplicate checks in your system, duplicate payments to be seen, and you can void those checks one at a time. Or you can give us a call and we can make sure that we can get that batch status to that successfully printed checks, and then you would move on normally from there. All right. And as I noted earlier, the steps above will not work for GP payroll. That's just because the way the module works differently from the other modules. Because of tax tables and all the other things, it's a lot more intricate, so there's a lot more tables involved. The process for restoring and sticking those batches, again, it's complicated, and it can actually remove some historical information. Like I said, direct deposit is a key one where if you just delete those out, you can delete all of that, the annual or historical information here, which can have an adverse effect on your reporting, especially at end of year and at tax time. Like I said, I wanted to cover that here, but I didn't want to cram it in here and skip some important steps. So we'll be covering the payroll one in a webinar probably next month here, so that way we can go through it very carefully, make sure that everything is good to go on that one here. All right, some final notes before we pause for questions and switch over to our demonstration. The manual process described involves modifying and deleting data from your SQL database. If you are not careful, this can have an adverse effect. You'll notice a lot of lines says where batch num equals this. If you don't put that on there and you just go delete from SY00500 and press that F5, you will delete that entire table out. So the safest thing you can always do is anytime you are running scripts directly against your database, always back up your databases before modifying data directly. That way, if the worst does happen, we can easily go back in, restore your databases, and get you back up and running. And if you are unsure on this process, or you think you have an idea but you want to be sure, you can always restore your live company as your test database. We do have a couple webinars on that. Or contact us, and we'll be happy to run the scripts for you to help ensure your data integrity, and minimize any impact it may have on your daily operations. Because the last thing we want to do is mod it more than we intended. All right, so I'm going to switch back here to our questions. I'm not currently seeing anything, but we'll just give a brief pause here. All right, I am still not seeing any here, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the demonstration. All right, so I'm going to hop back into our VM here. All right, and both the batches for this example I just did in sales here quick. So we're going to hop in here to our batch ID. All right, here's our, obviously you can show that I'm going to show you the pink batch recovery here. Batch rec demo here, so we're going to pull this up. And I have one transaction in there for a little over $5 grand. I'm buying a computer here for my company. Let's go ahead and post this. Let's go ahead and post the printing journal, and then we're just going to cancel out the rest of these here. You can see it still goes up to 100%. Uh-oh, there is an issue. Batch rec demo failed to complete posting. Use the batch recovery window to complete the posting process. Click on more info here. And this kind of gives you, this is kind of a technical error. It doesn't mean much. It's machine speak, to be completely honest here, but sometimes that can give us a little insight. But right here on our posting journal here, the sales distributions does not equal the actual amount. Well, whoever entered in this invoice here, unfortunately, looks like they didn't get the distributions to equal out here. So we'll go ahead and close out of that. Click OK. That's right there, message. All right. So I said check batch recovery. So we're going to go Dynamics GP, Tools, Routines, Batch Recovery. Well, sure enough, there it is. Batch rec demo. All right, so let's go ahead and just check that. Let's try and continue. Again, we're going to go to the screen here. Oh, I got click happy. I apologize. Printing report. Oh, same error again. All right, so we're going to have to go into SQL here. Oh. All right, so the first thing we want to do here is, I've already got them typed in there. Sorry, doing my testing here. Didn't want to spoil the surprise for you here. The first thing we want to do is just check to make sure that this is clear. I always recommend doing this. Usually when it comes to the batch recovery, this SY800 table, it's going to be clear. So what I want to do now is select Mark to Post and Batch Status from our company database. We are in our WS Tools, our demonstration demo here, and it was Batch Rec Demo. Let's go ahead and run this. Oh, batch status is 9. Mark to Post is still 0 here, but it shows a batch status of 9, which is, it's an error message. It just basically says failed to post. So what we're going to do here is, I don't have to change the Mark to Post. It's already 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this script here. All right, 1 row affected. So what we're going to do now is hop back into GP here. And I want to show you something here. Routine. Batch recovery. Oh, I still have it open. Let me refresh that. Tools. Routines. And batch recovery. There it is. That status nice. Just a post. When the posting error matches messages, that causes it to appear in here. Let's clear it out now. So let's go into our sales batches here. Pull that one up. So you can see, incorrect demo. We have one transaction. We should know which one's airing out. All right, so it is not liking it. So let's just go ahead and hop in here. Oh, that's why. There it is. Forgot to change that from a quote to an invoice. So bring this up. One computer, the taxes, that's how we get up to there. So let's check. It said it wasn't equal. So we are going to go to our distributions. Here's why the actual sales wasn't correct. Somebody came in there and might have changed it. So the easiest way to do that is, I'm sure it'll ask you to delete and want to put it back. That'll flip everything back over to the default for us here. So we click OK. We can save that here. So now let's try and post that one again. Batch rec demo here. Post, and this time we're going to print this to the screen. Close out the report I currently have open, and then let the new one print. And it's still saying it failed to print posting. Okay, so everything's balancing out now. So let's hop back into here. Tools, routines, coverage, sure enough, it's in there. Table updates interrupted. And so this is something where we might have to go in and possibly do some more work on the back end here. So let's give this another shot here. We'll just try and continue that, and we'll cancel out. Yeah. So I kind of fudged this one. I went in and changed it and did some work in SQL here to kind of change the appearance here. So what it is more than likely there's a partial transaction on one of the tables here, and we could hunt and cover that out. But you do see how the batch recovery is supposed to function there. And so then the other one that I do want to show you here is just a demonstration of that SY800 table here. So I've got another one in here. Oh, it's got demo, so we're going to pull this up here. And then say GP accidentally crashes, because I am currently in here. So we'll simulate a GP crash here just by forcing the program closed through the task manager here. Okay. So my GP accidentally crashed, lost the connection or something similar to that. Lost SQL connections or drop connections actually are kind of a lot of the causes that I hear, that it just suddenly, lost its connection, unfortunately, which can happen for a number of reasons here. So we're going to log back into our, see it says I'm already logged in. So we're going to go ahead and delete myself out so I can log back in. And on that window, you'll only ever see your own account, so you can't really kick other people out, which is a nice feature. So that way, if it does drop here, it won't show it to you. All right, now I want to show you this. I am not on the table there. So let's run back here and, it did close it out. My apologies. Last time I'd done that, it crashed. But like I said, GP's gotten a lot better with each version of clearing this out. Even then, I did have to kind of force that here. So, but I still want to show you the behavior here. So give me 1 second. We're just going to kind of fake this here, because I do want you to see what it looks like when you try and go in there. So I'm going to go into a different one here. I'm going to go into necessity credits. And you don't have to normally do this here, so you can see where it says. So let's just and then something else you can do too, instead of just the batch number, is the dex row ID. This is on most tables. This is a unique identifier. This column should never be duplicated on any tables it's present on. It also helps if you spell the column name correctly there, Dextro ID. It's 47. So basically, it says the batch not remit isn't that essay credits here, so we're just going to go. Again, spelling is important, especially within SQL here. Try that again. All right. So now if we select this, all right, so it says we are in there. So let's try this. I do apologize about this workaround here, or not this workaround. It's kind of work, because like I said, I want to show you what it looks like when you try and access that batch. All right. Okay, now it's still showing on there, but as you can see, GP is closed out. So I most definitely have, I'm not in that batch. So we're going to hop back in here then. Yes, I'm sure I want to do it myself out. Again, I do apologize for this, but I want to show you what the behavior looks like. So when you encounter it, you can go, oh, I've seen that before. Scott showed me that on his webinar the other day. It's not much, but like I said, it's a good thing to know how the behavior should be here. So I don't want to go, I'm not doing batch recovery right now. All right, so now if we go back to the sales batches. Hop in here. It's going to let me in. I am so sorry. I practiced this and I made sure it had locked me out, because what it would do, I'll just show you what it says here. I do apologize. Well, because I hope to show it to you. What it would say here is, in that instance where if somebody's in there, this status would just simply say locked. It just means that there's somebody in the batch. If somebody's editing, it'll say edit. If it's posting, it'll say, if it's somebody's trying to post, it'll say marked or posting there. And that error message is on one of the first slides where it says the statuses might mean it's locked. It'll appear right here on the batch. And this should be on almost, my apologies, this should be present on almost any batch lookup window here. Yeah, I do apologize, but like I said, it would just show that there would be just be the entry there, and then you would just come in and delete that out. So yeah, like I said, GP has gotten better with each version, which is a good thing actually. That hopefully this decreases the amount of frequency that we have, because this can be a headache and can be kind of scary, especially when you're working on larger batches. If it gets stuck, if it took you, if you're the type that manually doesn't import, it could take you a couple hours possibly just keying in the information here. So it can be scary. Like I said, it's just those couple of simple scripts that will clear that out. And get you back up and running. Like I said, if you've printed checks or anything like that where it's already done some of the work, give us a call. We can certainly update that batch status right there to the correct one for you, so we're not making you reprint checks and do the additional work here. So that is all I have. I do apologize that the second demonstration wasn't wanting to behave, or that it was behaving actually in this case, because I wanted to produce an error message. So GP was working in this case, which is good. Like I said, I am impressed with each iteration of GP, how their batch handling gets more improved and more streamlined. So these stuck batches seems to happen less and less. So we're just going to pause here for a few moments. Just in case anybody has any questions, feel free to just go ahead and type them into the question field in the little webinar window here. All right, I'm not seeing any questions here, so what we'll do is just kind of close up our the presentation here right now. Here, the Q&A here. I don't have anyone here. Again, here, my name is Scott with Implementation Specialist. There's our office number. You'll generally speak with Sherry or Sam. Just ask to be transferred to me if you need assistance with these batches. Or you can contact me via email there, scott@xcorp.biz. And then here is our main support information, the office number, the main support line. This will go to all the support engineers to get these emails here. So if I'm unavailable, if I'm out of the office, or if I'm unfortunately on the phone with another customer, we want to make sure we can get you help as quickly as possible here. So the next available engineer will grab that and give you a follow-up. And then our website, iscorp.biz. Here. I just want to pull up our website here and show you what webinars we do have coming up in the future here. All right. Our next webinar on the 24th, next Thursday, there is a report for that. And this one I believe is put on by Heather here. And what this will do with the reports here. You'll get a lot of the, she'll showcase some of the reports that are available within GP to help you get the information that you might need for your business here. Because GP does include a lot of canned reports. Some are turned off by default, some are turned on here, but Heather will kind of show you that next Thursday here. So if you want to join that, you just go to iscorp.biz under events and webinars. All right, one last quick check for questions. I am still not seeing anything, but I do hope that you all learned something here today. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and give you 25 minutes of your day back here. Let you hopefully, I know it's lunchtime here in the central time zone here, so hopefully you can get a quick bite to eat before you got to get back to the desk and continue your Thursday on here. So I do thank you. And again, keep an eye out for the payroll webinar that I will more likely be working on for next month here. That will show you how to unstick payroll batches. Again, my name is Scott with Implementation Specialist. And again, I'd like to thank you all for joining me here today. Thank you very much. Take care and have a wonderful day.